Welcome to my humble abode, darlings. Come in out of the rain and get comfortable. I have a story to tell you, and I hope you enjoy. If you do, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Chapter 3. Grace descended down the hatch into the interior of the Nautilus. She stepped off the last rung of the ladder and into the middle of a corridor and looked around with wonder. There were 2 doorways on either side of the hallway, facing towards the bow and the stern, and a third doctor directly across from the ladder, leading from the deck hatch. This she opened and found a couple dozen or so bunk beds, a few of which were occupied by some wide-eyed crewmen who sat up and yelled at the sudden intrusion of a stranger. A hand yanked her back and spun her around. She found herself face to face with the glowering captain. "Woman, are you a complete fool?" Her face turned red. I just wanted to have a look around." A lanky, bespectacled African man stepped out of the crew's quarters, alarmed by Grace's presence. He looked to Captain Nemo for an explanation. Nemo took him aside and spoke to him in hushed tones, using the common language of the Nautilus. When the captain finished debriefing him, he turned to Grace and seemed to study her for a moment before offering his hand. "Lieutenant Kalidou Denaye, second in command aboard the Nautilus. I am at your service, Dr. Evans." She shook his hand and noted his gentle manner and kind face, a stark contrast to Captain Nemo's demeanor. "A pleasure to meet you, Lieutenant Denaye." Gonzalo followed behind Nemo as they descended into the interior of the vessel. The captain ordered, "Set Dr. Evans's suitcase in my office and move one of the divans from the drawing room in there as well. We shall convert it into private quarters as we did during Professor Anorex's visit." Turning back to Grace, he said, "Now, Dr. Evans, I will show you the main facilities of the Nautilus as we make our way to your room." They moved to the following room to give space for Mastani to descend into the hatch. The lieutenant offered the lady a hand as she stepped off the ladder. She called, "Will you find time to give Dr. Evans a thorough tour, Baya?" "I'm a very busy man." Grace frowned. "At the clinic, when I took on a new nurse, showing her around the facility was one of the first things I would do. As I said before, this isn't a missionary society. The engine rooms aren't immediately crucial to your work as a medic." Grace was about to respond when the lieutenant cleared his throat. She looked over her shoulder and saw him shake his head slightly. Turning back to Captain Nemo, she gave him a polite smile. "Jolly good, Captain. Lead on." As Captain Nemo turned to lead her in the direction of the bow, she glanced over her shoulder one last time at the lieutenant, who made a wry face and shrugged. Nemo led Grace past the heads and the galley, which compensated for their small size with impeccable cleanliness and state-of-the-art appliances. Grace noticed a serving spoon laying on a counter. Its wide handle was engraved with the letter N and encircled by a Latin phrase which she read out loud. "Mobilis in mobili." Captain Nemo nodded. "Moving within the moving element. That is our motto. We must remain as adaptable as the ocean itself to survive. I can assure you that I wouldn't have made it far in my own life if I weren't adaptable." She inspected the stove, which had no visible firebox. "You use electricity for heat and cooking, don't you, Captain?" "Yes, Doctor. Everything on this vessel is powered by electricity." "Oh, if only I could see more hospitals this efficient and well-equipped. I do hope you'll show me the engine room later and explain to me in great detail how you generate the electricity which drives your incredible vessel." Captain Nemo hesitated before saying, "Well, I suppose you must learn about it sooner or later if you're to serve aboard this submarine. Perhaps I might spare a few hours later this week to show you, though I make no promises." "Good show, Gracie," she thought. "Win the old codger over with flattery." They passed through a vertical junction connected by a ladder. Above us is the wheelhouse and control room, the captain explained. Below us is the armory and dry deck module. Will you show me how to use the diving gear? Of course, Doctor. It's quite easy to use, and diving is a required skill for every crew member. I look forward to it with great eagerness, Captain. She bit her lip in reaction to her own over-enthusiastic tone. Don't overdo it, Evans. Captain Nemo stood a little straighter as he showed her the dining halls. The arched ceilings, adorned with carved wooden beams, and the wide mahogany tables were perhaps superfluous, but they added an atmosphere of comfort to a vessel which could have otherwise been soulless and utilitarian. The crew avoided our previous guests, seeing as they were outsiders. But since you are formally joining my crew, you may expect to eat here communally at set times. I myself am often prone to eat while working, as I constantly have things to see to. As they entered the library, Grace thought it was one of the loveliest rooms she had ever seen. The electric lights gently illuminated the space, which was fully furnished with couches and writing desks. The smell of cigar smoke hung in the air. Every wall was lined with bookshelves, except for one large panel. Captain Nemo glanced at Grace, then stepped over to it and pressed a button. She gasped in amazement as a porthole opened, revealing a view of the dark sea outside. A few pomfrets were visible in the murky water, lazily drifting by. I promise there's much more to see when it's daylight, the captain assured. For the first time, Nemo smiled. An undeniable sense of pride welled up within him at the sight of Grace's unabashed wonder. This room contains 12,000 books, all at your disposal, Dr. Evans. She inspected some particular antique-looking tomes. Oh, I shall most certainly be spending every free moment I can find among these volumes, Captain. Nemo searched the shelves for specific books, neatly stacking them and carrying them over to her. I'm taking these to your quarter. I will expect you to read them through before the end of the next week. Here's a manual on general engineering, navigation, geography, marine biology, and most importantly, a guide to the Nautilus's common language. Grace's eyes widened at the stack of books in his arm, but she nodded. I'm up to the challenge, Captain. Read through them, and I'll have either Tasia or my ward, Robert, tutor you more intensively. He's one of the most brilliant and innovative minds on this vessel. And, as you know, the crew of the Nautilus are from all over the world. So we found the development of a pidgin language aids communication aboard our vessel. That is why I encourage you to be diligent in your study of it. He carried the books through the drawing room, which served as a museum of sorts. Glass cases contained artifacts collected from all over the world. Most of the cases contained fascinating biological specimens, such as valuable shells and exotic fossils. A polished pua shell, bigger than her head, and with all the iridescence of a peacock feather, caught Grace's eye. Beautiful paintings, several by famous artists, adorned the walls between light fixtures and various styles. At the far end of the drawing room was a magnificent piano organ. Captain Nemo was taken aback when Grace sat down on the bench and began to pluck out a hymn. Doctor, what are you doing? He frowned at the melody, which he thought would be better suited to a fairground calliope. She chuckled and stopped playing. Oh, I used to play the organ at church. It's been some time since I last had a chance to practice my musical abilities. Well, I have no doubt your musical abilities made your parishioners pray more earnestly for Christ's second coming. Ha! She rose from the bench and followed Nemo to the hallway. If I didn't know better, I would suspect you of having a sense of humor, Captain. They entered his office, now converted into an adequate bedroom thanks to Consolo and a few of the other crewmen. The room smelled of cigar smoke and was large enough to hold a divan, desk, and a set of shelves. Large maps hung on the walls, and the contents of Grace's suitcase was laid out on the divan. Nemo's gaze fell upon her belongings and saw the hinged frame which contained the portrait of her parents. The captain paused to ask a question, but seemed to change his mind. He set the stack of books down on the desk with a thump. "This room is adjacent to my quarters, but understand I will not be readily available for every question or need you may have. I must remind you that you are here voluntarily, not by request, and you will be expected to contribute as much to the crew as every man aboard." Before Captain Nemo turned to leave, he said, "I cannot say I have ever heard of an individual impressing themselves into a crew, especially by means of blackmailing the captain. Are you certain you have no ethical concerns about what you are doing, Doctor?" "Did you have any ethical concerns about holding Professor Anorax and his companions hostage, Captain?" Nemo scowled and turned away, firmly shutting the door behind him. Grace sat down on the divan and chuckled, feeling incredibly self-satisfied. She turned to the stack of books Nemo had left for her on the writing desk and opened the handwritten manuscript which detailed the common language of the Nautilus. A loose page was tucked in the cover. Her eyes widened with interest. The document appeared very old, and she recognized the intricate, swirling script which covered the fibrous surface as Sanskrit. She fidgeted with her spectacles, as if the lenses might affect her literacy in the ancient language. "Bother it, and curse the Tower of Babel," she muttered. "How old was I when Mother and I tried teaching ourselves Sanskrit?" At the bottom of the page was a medieval-looking illustration of a creature with a fish's body and the head of an alligator. She tried again to pick out the letter she recognized near the top of the document. Dwarka. She let out a low whistle. Whew. Dwarka. India's Atlantis, as it's been called. So that's what Captain Nemo's after. So quoth this raven. I hope you all have a lovely week, my darlings. I know I didn't get out a second video last week, and I may not this week. Baby Bird moved out of the house, and things have been busy, but I promise I am not deserting you, especially with this absolutely marvelous book to cover. I hope you're all enjoying it. Please let me know in the comments. Please give me a like. A little bit of something, darlings. I would appreciate it. Bye-bye. What? You're still here after the whole story? I really appreciate that, darlings. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. And I always love to hear from you. Have a glorious day, my darlings.